In 1817, John Bell and his son, Drew, spotted odd creatures in the woods near their farm. They shot at the strange beast, and the beast vanished. Soon after, a series of weird knocking, scraping, and scratching sounds began on the exterior of the house before progressing to the front door at night. The sounds then moved inside and seemed to emanate from the bedroom belonging to the Bell sons. The noises continued for weeks. The sounds could eventually be heard all over the house, continuing from room to room, stopping when everyone was awake and starting again when they all went back to bed. The Bells also heard what sounded like a dog pawing at the wooden floor and chains being dragged through the house. They heard thumps and thuds, as though furniture was being overturned. These bumps in the night were frightening, but they were nothing compared to the noise that followed. The smacking of lips, gurgling, gulping, choking, and other sounds seemingly made by a human. Following the disembodied sounds were the effects of unseen hands. Items in the house were broken and blankets were yanked from beds. Hair was pulled, and the children felt slaps and pokes, causing them to cry in pain. The Bell's daughter, Betsy, was once slapped so severely that her cheeks stayed bright red for hours. Whatever the cause of the unseen force, most of its violent outbursts were directed at Betsy. She would often run screaming from her room in terror as the unseen hands prodded, pinched, and poked her. The force became even crueler to her any time she entertained her young suitor, Joshua Gardner, at the house. Desperately seeking answers, John Bell enlisted the help of some of his neighbors to investigate. Even in the presence of witnesses, the strange sounds continued, chairs overturned, and objects flew about the room. The neighbors formed an investigative committee, determined to find a cause for the terrifying events. Word began to spread about the strange happenings, and friends and strangers came to the farm to witness them. Dozens of people heard the banging and rapping sounds and watched as unseen hands seemed to throw chunks of rock and wood at the curious guests. The committee conducted experiments, tried to communicate with the force, and kept a close eye on the events that took place. They set up overnight vigils, but the attacks only increased in intensity. The strange force treated Betsy brutally, and she began to have sensations that the breath was being sucked from her body. She experienced scratches, and her flesh bled as though she were pierced with invisible pins and needles. She also suffered fainting spells, sometimes blacking out for 30 to 40 minutes at a time. A raspy, whistling sound became audible as investigations continued, as if someone was trying to speak. With time, the rasp turned to a weak whisper. This voice, attributed to whatever force was causing the chaos in the Bell home, explained that it was a spirit whose rest had been disturbed. It made many, often conflicting claims to its origins, ranging from being an ancient spirit to the ghost of a murdered peddler. More people began traveling greater distances to witness the events at the Bell home. There were those who came to the farm intent on driving out the witch. Others hoped to prove the entire affair was a hoax. Without fail, all visitors left the farm confessing that the unusual events were beyond their understanding. Around this time, John Bell began to complain about a curious numbness in his mouth. When the sensation flared up, John's tongue would swell so greatly that he was unable to eat or drink for days at a time. The strange affliction progressed with the haunting. He began to suffer further symptoms, most notably facial tics so intense that they rendered him unable to talk or eat and often made him lose consciousness. Seizures would last from a few hours to as long as a week, and they increased in severity as time wore on. Though it never explained why, the spirit made it clear from the beginning that it would target John Bell. The voice stated it planned to torment him for the remainder of his life. In addition to the numbness, swelling, and seizures, John also experienced slaps from invisible hands and stabs from invisible pins. Witnesses recalled seeing him cry out in pain from the abuse. The family's doctor was helpless in finding a cure for John's ailments. They called the force a witch, and she would openly laugh at such efforts and declare no medicine could cure him. Some believed the reason for John's particular suffering was revealed when the witch claimed to belong to Kate Batts. An eccentric neighbor who had disliked John after past business dealings went sour. Whether or not the witch was truly Batts, people began calling the witch Kate. The symptoms of John's affliction continued into 1820. In late October of that year, a particularly severe seizure confined John to his bed. Kate remained nearby, laughing and cursing at the dying man. On the morning of December 19, 1820, Lucy checked on her husband who appeared to be sleeping soundly. An hour later, she returned to the bedroom to discover John was in fact in a stupor. One of their sons rushed to get his father's medicine, but discovered all his prescriptions had vanished. In their place was a small vial containing a dark liquid. Kate's voice rang through the room as she claimed she had poisoned John with the same substance contained in the vial, and John would never rise from bed again. None of the family knew what the substance was. They tested a sample from the vial on a cat, and the animal was dead in seconds. John Bell took one last shuddering breath on December 20th and died. Laughter filled the house, as the witch declared she hoped John burned in hell. The family laid him to rest in a small cemetery a short distance from their home. As mourners left the cemetery, the voice of Kate echoed loudly in the cold air. She cheered the death of the man she hated so much. But she was not yet finished with the Bell family.